So, Team USA have announced their team, and another car video. Yes, another car video, because I gotta get this one quick. They have gone real young. So, no Brittany Griner, but from, as far as I'm aware, Ryan Howard wasn't at the camp. I think she's the only player that wasn't at the camp that made the squad, because I think she's with the 3-on-3 team.
The announcement hit like a lightning strike, shattering timelines and locker rooms in the same breath. Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers, Angel Reese, all named to a shockingly young Team USA roster that nobody saw coming and everybody instantly questioned. Phones buzzed, group chats exploded, and within minutes the WNBA universe split clean down the middle. Was this the future finally taking over, or a ruthless power move that just buried veterans alive? Behind the smiles in the official graphic, tension simmered hot enough to melt careers. Caitlin's name alone triggered instant outrage from players who felt leapfrogged, ignored, erased. Paige's inclusion reopened old wounds about favoritism and politics. Angel's spot lit a fuse of jealousy, accusations, and whispered claims that this roster wasn't built on merit, but marketing power and league pressure. Every camera flash felt like a verdict, every congratulatory post like a provocation. Veteran stars stared at their phones in silence, realizing doors they'd fought to keep open were slamming shut. Coaches exchanged tight smiles while quietly asking who really made this call. Kathy Engelbert's office went into lockdown mode as leaks began dripping out, hinting that this team decided long before the public ever knew. Inside the locker rooms, friendships cracked. Group chats went dark. Subtweets turned vicious. And somewhere between celebration and chaos, one terrifying question echoed through the league. If they can replace anyone this fast, who's next? Because this roster wasn't just a team selection. It was a warning shot, and fallout beginning now. It didn't start with the announcement. That was just the explosion. The real story had been brewing for years, quietly, bitterly, inside practice gyms, private meetings, and unspoken hierarchies that ruled the WNBA. Caitlin Clark didn't just arrive as a shooter with range. She arrived as a disruption. Every logo 3, every sold-out arena, every record broken came with resentment from veterans who had spent a decade grinding for respect without the spotlight following them. They smiled in interviews, praised her talent, but behind closed doors the whispers were sharp, media-made, protected, not tested yet. Caitlin heard it all, even when nobody said it to her face. And it hardened her. Paige Bueckers' story cut even deeper. Once crowned as the chosen one, injuries turned her career into a waiting room of doubt. Every comeback was followed by questions, every setback by rumors that she'd never be the same. Yet behind the rehab sessions and quiet nights, Paige watched how the league still bent toward certain names. She learned early that silence was survival, that politics mattered as much as points. Coaches loved her, executives trusted her, and that invisible shield never disappeared, no matter how long she was sidelined. Angel Reese's path was war from day one. She wasn't embraced, she was challenged. Every rebound, every stare down, every unapologetic celebration was labeled too much. She carried the weight of being policed for confidence, while others were praised for it. Angel didn't forget who doubted her, who questioned her discipline, who hinted she was bad for the image. She stored it all, quietly, dangerously, letting it fuel her. Meanwhile, Team USA had its own ghosts. Veteran players who bled for gold medals believed spots were earned through years, not hype cycles. Selection camps became colder. Younger players felt watched, tested, sometimes set up to fail. Older stars felt threatened, sensing the league's hunger for a new face, a new era, a new narrative to sell globally. Behind the scenes, Kathy Engelbert faced pressure from every direction. Networks wanted youth. Sponsors wanted stars with reach. International competition was getting younger, faster, bolder. Meetings turned tense as analytics clashed with loyalty. Some executives argued this was evolution. Others warned it was betrayal. Caitlin, Paige, and Angel were never supposed to align like this. Their journeys were separate, their rivalries real, their fan bases often at war. But as the league quietly shifted its priorities, their names kept resurfacing in the same conversations, the same shortlists, the same closed-door debates. By the time the final roster discussions happened, emotions were already bruised, egos already wounded, and trust already fractured. Some veterans felt the decision had been made before tryouts even mattered. Some coaches felt ignored. And some players realized too late that the future had already chosen its faces. When the list was finalized, it wasn't just a team. It was a line drawn in permanent ink. And everyone who wasn't on it felt the cut, deep, personal, and impossible to ignore, as the league braced for the first real confrontation that was now inevitable. The moment the roster leaked internally, the league went into quiet panic. Before the public graphic, before the smiling photos, the phones of veterans started lighting up with the same 3 names highlighted in disbelief. Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers, Angel Reese. All locked in, all young, all controversial. And that's when the anger stopped being theoretical and became personal. One veteran stormed out of a closed practice, another unfollowed multiple teammates in real time, and a third sent a message so explosive it forced a Team USA staffer to call an emergency meeting before the news even broke. When the announcement finally went public, the backlash detonated instantly. Former Olympians went live within minutes, carefully choosing words that still cut like knives. "Earned, not given," one said, staring straight into the camera. Another tweeted a single gold note emoji, followed by a broken heart. Everyone knew what it meant. Caitlin's mentions turned into a battlefield. Half the league defended her numbers, her impact, her undeniable gravity. The other half questioned her readiness, her defense, her real international toughness. She tried to stay silent, but the silence felt louder than any response. Every refresh showed another player she once admired subtly discrediting her place. Paige's situation turned even uglier. Old injury clips resurfaced like weapons. Commentators whispered about health risks and insurance nightmares, thinly veiled excuses that masked resentment. One anonymous quote leaked to a reporter claiming Paige's selection was pre-approved years ago. That single line sent fans into a frenzy and put Team USA officials on edge. Paige saw it while icing her knee after practice, her jaw tightening as she realized the narrative wasn't about basketball anymore. It was about favoritism, about trust, about who the league protects when things get uncomfortable. Angel Reese became the lightning rod. More than anyone else, her selection was framed as defiance. She wasn't just included, she was accused. Accused of being chosen for controversy, for engagement, for headlines. A retired star openly questioned her discipline on a podcast, and the clip went viral within hours. Angel didn't respond publicly, but teammates noticed her change. Louder in drills, sharper elbows, no smiles. She wasn't trying to prove she belonged. She was daring someone to say she didn't, to her face. Inside Team USA camps, the tension was suffocating. Drills felt like additions instead of practices. Every missed rotation was magnified. Every mistake by a young player drew side eyes that lingered too long. Caitlin could feel veterans testing her, pushing her off spots, bumping her harder than necessary. Paige sensed the coldness too, the conversations that stopped when she entered the room. Angel heard the whispers, caught fragments of sentences that weren't meant for her ears. Trust eroded fast. Then came the first real fracture. A scrimmage turned heated when Caitlin drained a deep 3 over a veteran defender and didn't apologize for it. Words were exchanged. Voices rose. Coaches intervened, but the damage was done. The clip leaked anyway, grainy and cropped, framed to make Caitlin look smug and the veteran look humiliated. Social media took sides instantly, and the league realized it had lost control of the narrative. Kathy Engelbert was forced into damage control mode. Emergency calls with USA Basketball. PR statements drafted and redrafted. Sponsors quietly asking whether this team would unite or implode. But behind closed doors, something darker surfaced. A source leaked that at least one veteran had threatened to step away if the roster wasn't reconsidered. Another hinted at internal votes that were never officially acknowledged. Suddenly, the selection process itself was under scrutiny. Paige was pulled into a private meeting, reassured she was essential, a word that felt both comforting and dangerous. Caitlin received a call reminding her to stay focused and ignore the noise, which only confirmed how loud the noise had become. Angel wasn't called at all. She found out about the controversy the same way everyone else did, online, and that omission burned deeper than any criticism. Then the first shocking twist hit. A respected insider dropped a report claiming the roster wasn't finalized on performance alone, but on projected global reach ahead of future international deals. Names weren't mentioned, but the implication was obvious. Fans erupted. Veterans felt validated. Younger players felt exposed. Team USA denied everything, but the denial came too late. Locker rooms across the WNBA turned toxic. Players stopped defending each other publicly. Old alliances resurfaced. Caitlyn's teammates were asked daily whether she deserved it. Paige's health became a talking point in games she wasn't even playing. Angel was booed in arenas that once cheered her. Every possession carried extra weight, every mistake framed as evidence. The team wasn't even assembled yet, and it already felt fractured beyond repair. And as the pressure mounted, one thing became terrifyingly clear. Someone inside the system wanted this chaos seen, shared, and amplified. Because just as the league tried to calm the storm, a second leak was already circulating. One that threatened to expose who really pushed this roster through, and why, setting the stage for a reckoning nobody was ready for. What started as tension now turned radioactive. The league didn't just feel divided, it felt hunted. Every press conference became a trap, every question sharpened like a blade waiting for the wrong answer. Caitlin Clark walked into arenas knowing half the crowd wanted her to fail, just to prove a point. Every miss drew louder cheers than any make. She could feel it in her chest, that suffocating pressure of being turned into a symbol instead of a player. Teammates tried to protect her publicly, but privately some wondered if defending her was costing them standing in the locker room. Paige Bueckers felt the shift differently. The smiles from Team USA staff stayed polite, but the tone changed. Meetings became shorter. Conversations felt rehearsed. She noticed her name appearing less in strategic discussions and more in risk assessments. Every practice rep was monitored, recorded, whispered about. Was she moving gingerly? Did she hesitate? Could her body hold up under international pressure? Paige realized she wasn't fighting opponents anymore. She was fighting a narrative quietly rewriting her worth. Angel Reese stood alone in a different storm. The boos followed her everywhere now. Social media didn't debate her skill anymore. It attacked her presence. Anonymous accounts pushed the same message relentlessly. She doesn't fit. Angel stopped reading comments, but she couldn't escape the looks. Veterans stared at her like she was an intruder who'd slipped past security. Younger players avoided eye contact, afraid association would make them targets too. Angel didn't shrink. She got sharper, meaner. She played like someone daring the league to try and erase her. Then the second twist detonated. A leaked internal memo surfaced online at 2:17 a.m. Eastern. Not a rumor. Not a quote. A document. Screenshots stamped with USA basketball headers, outlining a strategic transition plan for Team USA. It detailed an intentional shift toward youth-focused branding, social reach metrics, and global engagement acceleration. Buried in the language was a sentence that froze the league. Veteran selections may be deprioritized to facilitate long-term market alignment. That was the proof everyone said didn't exist. Within hours, players were calling lawyers. Retired legends went live, furious, voices shaking as they accused the system of betrayal. Gold medalists questioned whether their sacrifices meant anything anymore. One former star said openly, "This isn't Team USA. This is a business experiment." The league tried to distance itself, but the damage was irreversible. The memo didn't name Caitlyn, Paige, or Angel, but it didn't need to. Everyone knew exactly who benefited. Kathy Engelbert's silence became deafening. Sponsors demanded answers. USA Basketball issued a statement calling the document misleading, but refused to deny its authenticity. That hesitation lit the fuse. Fans stopped arguing about players and started questioning the entire system. Hashtags trended calling for investigations. Merit over marketing flooded timelines. Arena chants turned hostile. Inside the Team USA environment, trust collapsed completely. Veterans stopped mentoring. Plays broke down mid-run. One practice ended early after a verbal blow-up so intense that staff cleared the gym. Caitlyn was reportedly told to keep her head down. Advice that sounded more like survival than leadership. Paige overheard her name mentioned alongside the word liability for the first time. Angel was pulled aside and warned her emotions were being watched. A sentence that made her laugh bitterly after everything she'd already endured. And then came the betrayal no one expected. A respected assistant coach, known for decades of loyalty to veterans, was identified as the source who leaked the memo. The revelation stunned everyone. This wasn't a rogue employee chasing clout. This was someone from inside the machine, someone who'd helped build it. Reports claimed they leaked it after being ignored repeatedly when voicing concerns about how selections were being manipulated. The message was clear. If the truth wouldn't be heard internally, it would be exposed publicly. The fallout was instant. USA Basketball suspended the coach pending investigation, but players knew what that really meant. Punishment for telling the truth. Veterans rallied behind the leak, calling it courageous. Younger players panicked, realizing their spots might now be framed as illegitimate forever. Caitlin questioned whether every achievement would now be dismissed as corporate favoritism. Paige wondered if her body was just an excuse the system could discard when convenient. Angel felt the oldest wound reopen, that no matter how hard she fought, the goalposts would always move. The league's image cracked on a global stage. International teams mocked the chaos. Commentators questioned whether Team USA would even be united enough to compete. Practices felt like battlefields where every drill doubled as evidence in a trial nobody agreed to attend. Then, quietly, another rumor began spreading. This one darker. This one more dangerous. Multiple insiders claimed the roster still wasn't final. That at least one name, a young name, could be removed to restore balance and calm the backlash. Phones started ringing. Agents demanded clarity. Players refreshed feeds obsessively. Caitlin sat alone after a game, staring at her locker. Paige iced her knee in silence, mind racing. Angel laced her shoes tighter than usual, jaw clenched. Because now the chaos wasn't just about how they got here. It was about who would be sacrificed to save the system. And the decision, already in motion, was about to break someone completely. The fallout didn't creep in quietly. It arrived like a public execution. Morning shows opened with the controversy instead of highlights. Headlines stopped saying Team USA and started saying broken system. Every clip was dissected, every facial expression slowed down, every silence turned into suspicion. Fans who once celebrated the future now demanded accountability, and the league felt its image unravel in real time. Caitlin Clark became the epicenter of a storm she never asked for. Arenas that once roared for her range now buzzed with resentment. Opposing crowds chanted accusations instead of insults. Analysts debated her spot like it was a moral dilemma, not a basketball decision. She smiled through interviews, but those close to her noticed the cracks. Shorter answers, guarded eyes, the weight of knowing every miss would be framed as proof she never belonged. Endorsement teams quietly asked whether she should lay low. Advice that felt like punishment for success. Paige Bueckers' fallout was quieter and somehow crueler. Sympathy turned into doubt overnight. Commentators questioned whether she was worth the risk, as if she were an investment portfolio instead of a human being. Old injury timelines resurfaced, stitched together into narratives that erased her resilience. Paige stopped correcting people. She let them talk. But late nights became restless, her mind looping on the same fear. That she was no longer fighting for a spot, but fighting not to be blamed for everything going wrong. Angel Reese absorbed the harshest blow. The backlash toward her turned openly hostile. Social media didn't argue anymore. It attacked. She was labeled divisive, inflammatory, a distraction. A former executive implied on air that her inclusion invited chaos, and that single sentence detonated another wave of outrage. Angel responded the only way she knew how, with silence and intensity. But teammates felt the shift. She laughed less, trusted fewer people. Every time she stepped on the floor, she carried the anger of knowing she'd be the easiest one to remove if the league needed a scapegoat. Former WNBA legends didn't hold back. Some defended the youth movement, arguing evolution was inevitable. Others called the process disrespectful and dangerous. Gold medalists questioned whether loyalty still mattered. Podcasts turned vicious. One iconic voice said, "If this is how Team USA treats its own, what message are we sending the world?" That clip went viral within hours, forcing USA basketball into another round of damage control. Kathy Engelbert finally spoke, but the response felt hollow. Carefully crafted statements emphasized unity and transparency without answering the real question. Who made the call and why? The lack of clarity fueled conspiracy theories. Fans demanded investigations. Petitions circulated. International media framed the situation as American arrogance collapsing under its own branding machine. Inside locker rooms across the league, players picked sides. Some openly supported the young trio, seeing themselves in their struggle. Others stayed quiet, calculating. Trust eroded not just toward the league, but between teammates. Conversations became guarded. Support felt conditional. Everyone understood one brutal truth. If it could happen to them, it could happen to anyone. The emotional toll mounted fast. Caitlin reportedly skipped optional media sessions. Paige limited public appearances. Angel deactivated comments altogether. These weren't signs of weakness, they were survival tactics. But absence only fueled speculation. Was someone being disciplined? Was a change coming? Every move felt ominous. Then the crowd reaction turned physical. Booing intensified. Chants crossed lines. Security tightened. The pressure wasn't just mental anymore. It followed them onto the court, into warm-ups, into tunnels. The joy of the game disappeared, replaced by vigilance. Behind closed doors, agents worked overtime. Crisis meetings were held. One rumor spread fast and wouldn't die, that removing one name could calm the chaos. Just one. A symbolic sacrifice to restore credibility. Nobody confirmed it. Nobody denied it. Caitlin heard whispers. Paige felt the tension. Angel sensed it coming before anyone said a word. Because when systems panic, they don't protect people. They protect themselves. And as the noise peaked, a private meeting was scheduled quietly, urgently, without explanation. A meeting that only one of them was asked to attend. That's when the fear became real. The meeting wasn't held in a conference room. That alone told her everything. No flags, no cameras, no official seal on the door. Just a quiet office, lights dimmed, blinds half closed like a confession booth built for destruction. Angel Reese walked in alone. No agent, no teammate. Just her and the weight of knowing that when organizations feel cornered, they choose the path of least resistance. And she had always been that path. Across the table sat faces she recognized instantly. USA basketball officials. A league representative. Someone on speaker who never gave their name. The tone was calm, almost apologetic, which somehow made it worse. They praised her toughness, her marketability, her impact. Compliments stacked like sandbags before the flood. Then came the sentence that cracked everything open. This situation has become bigger than basketball. They didn't say her name at first. They didn't have to. They talked about optics, about stability, about how the memo leak had triggered consequences no one could contain. They spoke about calming veterans, restoring trust, sending a message that Team USA was still about merit. And then finally they said it. Removing one player could reframe the entire narrative. Angel felt the room tilt. Not shock, recognition. She'd seen this movie before. When systems need redemption, they sacrifice the loudest truth teller and call it balance. They framed it as temporary, as a pause, as protection. But every word screamed the same reality. She was being offered up to save everyone else. What shattered her wasn't the suggestion. It was the justification. They claimed Caitlin Clark was untouchable, too visible, too central to the league's future. Paige Bueckers was labeled delicate, a comeback story too risky to disrupt. Angel, they said, was strong enough to withstand the hit, strong enough to understand, strong enough to wait. That's when Angel laughed. Not loud, not bitter, just a short breath that carried years of being told she had to be stronger so others could stay comfortable. She asked one question, sharp and simple. So this fixes everything? No one answered. While that meeting unfolded, Caitlin and Paige were being kept busy. Media prep, practice adjustments, carefully timed distractions. Caitlin sensed something was wrong when her phone stopped buzzing altogether. Paige felt it when her agent texted. Don't react to anything yet. Silence, she'd learned, was never accidental. Angel walked out of the building without a statement, without a plan, without certainty. But she wasn't alone for long. Within hours, a private message leaked. Not from officials, from a player, a veteran, thanking Angel for taking one for the team. That message went viral by morning, igniting outrage so intense it scorched everything in its path. Fans exploded. Players revolted. Former stars called it what it was, a scapegoating. Hashtags shifted from debate to demand. Don't touch Angel. Fix the system. You chose wrong. Caitlin saw the posts and felt her stomach drop. Paige watched interviews in silence, realizing the protection she'd been given came at a price she never agreed to. Then the real twist landed. A second document surfaced. This one impossible to spin. It showed that Angel Reese was never the league's problem. She was the compromise. Internal emails revealed that removing a veteran instead had been discussed and rejected because it would set a dangerous precedent. The safer option was always to remove the player already framed as controversial. The truth detonated any remaining trust. Kathy Engelbert was forced into emergency crisis mode. USA Basketball delayed announcements. Sponsors froze campaigns. International committees questioned the integrity of the program. And in the middle of it all, 3 young stars stood at a crossroads none of them had chosen. Caitlin publicly refused to comment. but privately made calls that changed how people saw her. Paige was reportedly furious, a word no one ever used for her before. And Angel went silent. No posts, no likes, no appearances, just absence. Then, late that night, a single line appeared on her story. No explanation, no context. "I won't disappear quietly." Within minutes, insiders began whispering that Angel had leverage, that she knew things, that she'd been documenting conversations, that if she spoke, the fallout wouldn't stop at Team USA. It would expose how the entire pipeline really works. Phones rang again. Meetings were rescheduled. And somewhere in the chaos, a final decision waited to be made. Not just about a roster spot, but about whether the truth would finally come out. Because if Angel Reese decided to talk, the system wouldn't survive it. This isn't just a basketball story anymore. It's a warning, a mirror, a test of who really controls the future of the WNBA and who pays the price when power gets uncomfortable. What happened with Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers, and Angel Reese exposed something the league tried for years to keep hidden. That success isn't always rewarded evenly, and silence is often expected in exchange for survival. Right now, nothing is settled. No official confirmation. No clean resolution. Just pressure building behind closed doors while the public waits. Caitlin is carrying the weight of being protected without asking for it. Paige is standing in the shadow of decisions made for her own good. And Angel is holding a match in a room full of gasoline, deciding whether to light it or walk away. This is the moment where fans matter, where voices matter. Because leagues don't change in silence. They change when the spotlight refuses to move. When questions don't stop. When narratives can't be buried. Every comment, every share, every demand for transparency forces the system to respond. So ask yourself, if this can happen to three of the biggest names in the game, what does that mean for everyone else fighting for a chance? For the players without massive platforms? Without protection? Without patience from the machine? Drop your thoughts. Whose side are you on? Evolution or loyalty? Did Team USA make the right call? Or did they cross a line they can't come back from? And if one player really is being positioned as the sacrifice, should she stay quiet? Or should she burn it all down? Because the next move doesn't belong to the league. It belongs to the truth. And whatever comes next won't just change this roster. It will change how the game is played, who gets believed, and who finally gets heard. Stay locked in. This story isn't over. It's just waiting for the next leak.